Yes.
Before the luncheon adjournment, I was asking you questions about your time at the St. Alypius Presbytery and who was living there with you. And I can advise you now from what I understand to be official records that in 1972, Monsignor W. McMahon and Reverend A. McInerney and Reverend W.J. O'Connell were present and living at the presbytery. In 1973, Monsignor McMahon, yourself and George Pell, then Reverend Pell, were living there. And in 1974, Monsignor McMahon, Reverend Pell, Reverend O'Connell and Reverend O'Toole were living at the presbytery. Merely to give you that information in terms of who was living there at the time that you assaulted the complainant known as V4. Now, does that assist you in the evidence that you gave earlier in relation to who you were living with?
I can remember the senior priest, Bill McMahon. I can remember him being there. I can't remember any of the others.
But you accept that if the directory indicates they were living there, they were living there?
Oh, yes, I accept that, Miss.
Thank you. Now, at the beginning of your evidence, I read out the various charges against you over the period from 1993 till more recently. Now, I take it, Mr. Ridsdale, that when you disclosed to Bishop Mulcairns on the occasions that you did disclose, that you told him the nature of your offending. That's right?
Well, I don't know whether I would or not. What details I would have given him, I'm not sure.
It's likely, isn't it, that you would have told him what you had done to the children. That was the subject of the complaint against you.
No, well, I don't think I would have told him any details about the activities, what I'd been doing.
If the complaint against you concerned the detail of your offending against a child, you, from time to time, admitted that complaint when pressed by Bishop Mulcairns, didn't you?
I don't know.
Well, you know that in Inglewood, you told Bishop Mulcairns about a complaint that was about to be made about you to Bishop Mulcairns?
When I left Inglewood and went to Ballarat, I would have told him that there were investigations going on.
Well, you told him to expect...
I don't know whether I've ever told him any details about the complaint. It would have been just generalities.
Well, you told him in Inglewood to expect a complaint by a policeman about you and the policeman's son, didn't you?
Yes, but what I thought you were asking me was about the actual details of what I had done to each victim.
Well, in terms of the complaint that you told him to expect in Inglewood, you would have told him, wouldn't you, the details of the complaint against you. That is, you must have disclosed the nature of the conduct that you expected the complaint to cover.
Yes, the general nature of the conduct, but the actual details, I don't know whether I would have told him or not.
Do you remember what you told him in 1970-odd when you were moved from Inglewood?
No, Miss, I've already said that I don't remember those meetings with Bishop Mulcairns. I certainly don't remember what I would have told him.
At that time...
I'm sorry, but I can't give you what I don't have. And I don't have those memories.
You pleaded guilty in 1993, 94, 2006 and 2014 to various offences, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And you accepted by your plea of guilty that the offences had been committed in the way that they were set out in the charges.
Well, yes, I accepted that that was what the complainants believed that I had done.
Well, and that's what you pleaded guilty to, isn't it?
I pleaded guilty to all those charges.
And they included indecent assault, carnal knowledge, buggery, didn't they?
Yes, I pleaded guilty to those.
You told Bishop Mulkern, didn't you, when a complaint you expected to be made in Inglewood about that complaint because you were concerned about the seriousness of the complaint against you, weren't you?
Yes, I would have been very concerned about it.
And you were concerned because there might be police investigation?
Yes, there was that.
And you were concerned because you might lose your priesthood, having recalled what Bishop O'Collin said to you back in the early 60s.
Yes, exactly.
And in those circumstances, you conveyed, didn't you, to Bishop Mulkern's what you understood to be the serious nature of the complaint?
Yes, I would have told him what the complaint was.
So you would have told him what the complaint was, although you don't now remember what you said to him?
No.
And
but it's reasonable. It's reasonable. What you say is reasonable, and I accept that should have been and would have been what I would have discussed with him. But I'm sorry, I don't have any memory of the conversation.
It would have been important to convey the seriousness of it to him so that he would take appropriate action to protect you.
Well, yes, that would have been possibly part of my understanding and part of my hope.
Would have been uppermost in your mind, wouldn't it, in your discussion
yes,
with the
because
bishop,
I would have been...
that he understood the seriousness of the consequences for you in order for him to take protective action.
Yes, that's reasonable. I accept that.
Thank you. I have nothing further on.
Mr. Rick, do you accept that someone with your issues should never have been a priest?
Yes, I accept that now. And I'm just sorry that there was nothing... Yeah, go on, yeah, sorry.
What should have been in place with the church to stop you becoming a priest?
There should have been a better screening process that was much more thorough, a psychological process that was much more thorough than anything that was conducted then.
If when you first discussed your offending behaviour with the bishop, he'd gone to the police, that would have brought it to an end, wouldn't it, as far as your role in the church was concerned?
It would have, and I'm now sorry that it didn't happen.
You might be sorry,
it would have saved so many others.
Yeah, the effect of it is you would have been removed from the priesthood forthwith, wouldn't you?
That's right. That's right. I would have gone to jail.
Yeah. Now, when you went to America, for treatment, remember that?
Yes, I do.
How many other priests were there who had similar sexual problems that you had?
I think there were about 30 in our group, and my remembrance of it would be probably 2/3.
2/3 had
I think it would,
pedophilia problems?
I think so, Your Honour, but I just can't be sure of that now.
And was there any suggestion during the course of your treatment that you or any of those who were with you being treated shouldn't be allowed to be priests within the church?
No, I don't think so. I don't remember anything like that coming up in group sessions. That sort of thing may have been discussed. We had individual therapists. They were the treatment place was organised and run by the group of religious, but all the therapists who came in were lay people, professional analysts from Albuquerque and Santa Fe. And we had one-to-one sessions weekly with our individual therapist, and then there were many other group sessions. But I don't remember anything like that coming up in group sessions at all, and I don't think that my therapist ever discussed it with me about suitability.
Now, it's plain that the treatment...
I acknowledge, Your Honour, that it should have been. It should have been uppermost in the minds of people, but I can't remember it ever being discussed.
So you accept that once it had been recognised you had these problems, your life as a priest should have been brought to an end by the church?
Yes, I do.
Now, it's plain that although you went through this treatment, it didn't work, isn't it?
In New Mexico?
Yeah.
I didn't offend at all after I came back from America.
You didn't? So do you say the treatment worked?
Yes, I think it did.
When did you come back from New Mexico?
It was there in 1990. I was there in 1990. I would have come back, I think, towards the end of 1990.
When were you arrested?
1993.
So there's a 2-year period, is there, between your return and your arrest?
Yes. And I wasn't locked up. I would have had opportunities to go to shopping malls, to beaches, to anywhere. And I'm happy to say that I didn't offend in that period.
Very well. Does anyone else have any questions? You do, Mr. Gray, but maybe you should go second if there's someone else. No one else has any questions? Mr. Gray.
I may well have some questions, but I'm not in a position today to embark upon them.
Why not?
Your Honour, as the Commission is aware, we have heard Mr. Ridsdale's evidence as he has given it yesterday and today, but we had no prior notice or indication of what it was that he would say. We did write twice asking for such an indication, but the Commission, as is its perfect prerogative, said that it would not do that. And so he has covered a lot of ground, he has named a lot of names. Many questions have been put to him where he has said he doesn't remember or he doesn't know. There are many things which we will need to investigate and check, people we will need to speak to, and that will take some time.
So what are you suggesting?
I would like, with respect, to reserve my position in relation to questioning Mr. Ridsdale until the second part of these hearings, which I understand is scheduled for the latter part of this year.
Ms. Finesse?
Well, Your Honour, my friend was in the same position as everybody else at the bar table, in the sense that Mr Ridsdale gave evidence without any person being aware of the precise nature of his evidence. I made it clear in the opening what I wouldn't cover, and that what I would cover would be questions of who knew what, and the significant documents have been tendered that largely go to that question. However, having said that, I have no objections to Mr Ridsdale being recalled in November for that purpose, or whenever the hearing.
You make the assumption we'll be here in November, but is that an appropriate course, or would it be better to have him recalled before stage 2?
Well, there's a question of logistics, Your Honour.
I understand all that, but
subject to the question.
Matter for you as to the course that you wish to take.
Subject to logistics, which are significant in terms of the movements of Your Honours and the Commissioners and availability in the court and the like. It could be probably more easily done in Sydney rather than Ballarat, if indeed there was to be a hearing between now and the second proposed Ballarat hearing.
Mr Gray, what we'll do is we will grant you an opportunity at a later time to ask Mr Ridsdale questions, whether that is in stage 2 or at some other point. I'll discuss with counsel.
Yes, Your Honour.
And we'll let you know.
Thank you, Your Honour.
And it may be the suggestion should be taken up that it could be done from Sydney. It'll again be by video link. We'll have to consider that as well.
Yes, Your Honour.
But until you hear from Ms Vanessa, I don't think you should assume it'll necessarily be in stage 2.
Very well, Your Honour.
Well, yes.
Well, Your Honour, I suggest that not be discharged. However, his presence is largely determined by a work order rather than a summons.
Mr Ridsdale, have you heard the exchange between myself and counsel?
Yes, I have, Your Honour.
Mr Gray, who appears for the church authorities, wants an opportunity to ask you questions on some later occasion. Do you understand that?
I understand that.
And I've indicated to him that that will be possible, but quite when that occasion will be has not been decided, but you will be told in due course when it will be that
yes.
Mr Gray will have an opportunity to ask you questions. Do you understand?
I understand, yes, Your Honour.
Otherwise, it's necessary for me to say that you're not formally excused from giving evidence before this hearing. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, very well. Thank you, Mr Ridsdale. That concludes your evidence today.
Thanks, Your Honour.
Your Honour, there's one matter I need to address.
Your microphone's picking you up.
Sorry, Your Honour. Last week, I referred to the tender of a letter that the Royal Commission had received, and this was on day 3 or 4, in relation to a statement that had been tendered, and the statement was critical of the author of an article in Eureka, and the email that was received that was tendered apologised for that article and the contents of it, and I indicated that the 2 witnesses who were relevant to giving evidence about that article were pleased, as I understood it, to read it. I'm told that indeed one of those witnesses was not pleased to receive the letter, although I understand that the other was pleased, so I just indicate that.
Thank you.
Now there's one remaining witness, Bishop Bird, and Your Honour might consider adjourning.
Well, I think arrangements have been made for him to give evidence at 10 o'clock in the morning, is it?
I understand that.
Yeah, very well. Well, we'll adjourn until 10 o'clock when Bishop Bird will give his evidence.